Here's an interesting hike into the Devil's Punchbowl area of the St. Gabriel Mountains. This trail is accessed from a trailhead in the pear blossom area of the Antelope Valley. The start is near the South Fork campground, accessed off of Big Rock Creek Road. To start with, we have to ford the creek, which this time of year, however, is running quite low. Although it does involve a little bit of boulder hopping to get across. And once across, the trail begins a quite steady climb up into the mountains. After a little bit of climbing, we can look back and see our starting point. And then we continue our climb on up towards a saddle between two mountains. Then we reach a point where we can stop and look around a little bit. We sure lucked out with a pretty nice day. In some places there are washouts along this trail, but certainly nothing insurmountable. In this spot, Dale does some acrobatics to get across a washed out area. Helps us get some good exercise. Here we approach the saddle before dropping down again into Holcomb Canyon. And once down into the bottom, we find a very nicely wooded area. We travel along for a while before starting to climb again. And climb we do before starting to get a glimpse of Devil's Punchbowl. And the closer we get, the more of the Punchbowl comes into view. Not only the Devil's Punchbowl, but we can look out and see the desert out beyond. Although also a little bit hazy. This is a quite unique area of folded rock formations, some at almost a vertical angle. And then we have a choice. Either go to the Devil's Chair, actually a part of the Punchbowl, or to other views of the Punchbowl also. So first we decide to go on to the Devil's Chair overlook, which, as you can see, involves traversing a fence-enclosed walkway, which leads us down some steps to a point that overlooks the Devil's Chair and the rest of this portion of the Punchbowl. And here I am, perched atop that point. And this gives us a pretty good overview of the area. And here we can pan around and take a pretty good look at this area, including the white-faced rocks of the so-called Devil's Chair. This white rock mass is just sheer on three sides. And then we zero in on what I think is the Devil's Chair. It takes a little bit of imagination, but that could be the back of a chair with the two white arms on its sides. But it's quite well known that the devil sits there occasionally. And from this vantage point, we can look back and see the direction we came from, and also the saddle that we came through to get here. But then it's time to move on, so Dale marches back up the steps from the point at Devil's Chair. So far, this has been a very rewarding hike, and one we are very glad we decided to take, even though a little ways from home. As you can see here, parts of this trail is literally tacked on to the sides of the hill. As you can see, this area is virtually littered with unusual rock formations. So off we go along the trail on the way to take us back. Some areas along this trail are pretty well eroded, but still very passable. No problem. So we continue to make our way back down towards the Holcomb Creek area and the woods. And then we approach the bottom and the trees. Holcomb Creek has a little bit of water running in it, but not an awful lot, as the rainy season hasn't really begun yet. So we decided this was a nice spot to take a little break and have a little bite to eat. But then it was time to start back up over that saddle and then back down towards our car. And then one last look around before getting in the car and leaving the trailhead. Now, who says Southern California doesn't have seasons? Take a look at the foliage on those trees. Although the Joshua trees make it certainly part of Southern California again. But before heading back home, we decided to stop at the Devil's Punchbowl County Park, which is located at the opposite end of the Punchbowl from where our trail was. And visible from within this park are some more rather unusual rock formations. This entire area is certainly full of varied and interesting formations and scenery, some of which reminded us very much of the Vasquez Rocks area. The park also includes a display of wildlife, including this Blinky, this owl. And no, he's not one-eyed, he just happens to have his head turned. There are some other trails within the park area which could prove to be very interesting. But we concluded that we'd had about enough for one day. So we got back in the car to head back home after a really enjoyable hike of about 8 miles.